I was on my way to my daughter's house for dinner, looking forward to a nice family evening, when my lawyer Michael sent a chilling message. Call me urgently. Emergency regarding Etta. The pen slipped from my fingers. In 30 years of building Hansen Tech, Michael had never used the word emergency about my family. I called him back immediately. His voice was cold and professional as he broke the news. Etta had filed a lawsuit to have me declared incompetent to run the company, citing emotional instability. The words hit me like a splash of ice water. My heart pounded as I tried to process the news. It was impossible. She was my own daughter. Michael explained that she had a group of shareholders supporting her, and they claimed I had lost my edge. He told me she had been preparing for months, gathering extensive documentation, including financial records and testimonies from board meetings. I paced my office as rain streaked the window like tears I couldn't shed. She was painting me as a man losing control. Doubt began to creep in. Had I been too passionate? Had I defended my old strategies too fiercely? Michael assured me they had a lot of paperwork. The office, once a source of pride, now felt small and meaningless. The awards on the walls, photos of groundbreaking ceremonies, all felt worthless if my own daughter could take it all away. Michael told me the filing was sealed, but she had already recruited several key shareholders, and they were meeting next day. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss I had ever faced. Etta, my brilliant and ambitious daughter, whom I had been grooming to take over, was trying to destroy me. Michael needed everything: financial records, medical documentation, and character witnesses. We had to build a defense from scratch in just 7 days. I closed my eyes, remembering that just 48 hours ago, I was planning to promote her to CEO. Now she was my enemy. I cleared my calendar and prepared for battle. Michael warned me not to confront her yet. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, feeling the warmth leave the room and my life. The routine of gathering my things felt foreign. My hands felt unsteady as I sat in my car, trying to make sense of her betrayal. Tonight was our weekly dinner tradition. Should I go and pretend nothing had happened? The thought of making small talk with her while she planned my destruction was agonizing. But maybe I needed to see her face, to understand who my daughter had become. I drove toward her house, toward answers I wasn't sure I wanted to find. Etta's front door opened before I could knock. Her smile was perfectly rehearsed. Her hug felt practiced. The house smelled like roasted chicken and lies. I followed her into the kitchen, where her husband Trevo nervously greeted me. I watched Ada move around the kitchen, as efficient and controlled as she was in a board meeting. My granddaughter Sophie bounded in, a welcome sight of genuine innocence. She showed me a crayon drawing of us at my office. It was beautiful and trusting, everything her mother wasn't. Etta caught my eye as I looked at the picture, and I saw something flicker in her expression. Guilt, or was it calculation? During dinner, Ida asked loaded questions about my health, suggesting I should rest more. I met her gaze and replied that work keeps me sharp, then asked about the finance department. She quickly shut down the conversation, claiming family time is sacred, to which I replied that loyalty used to be sacred. The tension was palpable. Sophie sensed it and asked why I was sad. I told her I was just thinking about how much I loved our family dinners. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to wait for me to come home, but the moment passed. The evening was filled with polite conversation and strained normalcy. When I left, Etta's concern seemed genuine. Maybe she had convinced herself this was for my own good. I told her I was just reflecting on how much Hansen Tech meant to our family. The guard went up in her expression, and she bid me a quick good night. Standing on her front steps, I watched her through the window, clearing dishes efficiently, methodically, and planning my destruction. I drove to Lake Union and called Michael. I told him dinner felt like a performance. He explained she had been documenting my emotional outbursts for 6 months, framing my passionate defenses and charitable decisions as irrational or emotionally driven. He told me the hearing was in 1 week. If she won, she would gain temporary control of the company. I drove through empty streets, processing the scope of her betrayal. She wasn't just attacking me. She was dismantling everything I had built with careful precision. At home, I climbed to my study, surrounded by 30 years of memories. I pulled out my late wife Ellie's letters, in which she had tried to warn me about Etta's feelings. She thinks you don't love her. I had dismissed her concerns then, but now I saw that doubt had festered into something dark. I found old school records and photos of Etta, wondering when her pride had curdled into resentment. Michael's encrypted email arrived, containing Etta's formal complaint. The documents were a surgical character assassination, claiming I had diminished cognitive flexibility consistent with early-stage dementia or depression following spousal loss. They were using my grief against me. At 1 a.m., I closed my laptop. My daughter was speaking the language of corporate warfare, and she had learned it well. Too well. I began typing notes, preparing my own strategy. I hadn't built Hanson by surrendering. I built it by outthinking my opponents. It was time to remind her who taught her how to fight. I met with Steve Wilson, my friend and co-founder. I laid out the legal documents and shareholder analysis on his conference table. He was shocked. We mapped out her strategy and our counterattack. She was promising unrealistic dividends based on staff cuts and automation corporate vandalism, not innovation. We would remind the shareholders what happens to companies that chase every trend. We planned to meet with a key shareholder, James Corbin, to show him what would happen if he bet against proven leadership. In 2 hours, I had transformed from victim to general. I met Michael at his law office, which he had turned into a command center. He showed me the 47-page filing. I flipped through the surgical character assassination, where every passionate defense was reframed as emotional instability. Michael showed me her lawyer, Lavra Blake, a woman with a predatory smile who had built a career on destroying family legacies, but we would write a better script. Our counter-strategy was to turn her greatest strength into a weakness. We would file a countersuit for breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to defraud shareholders, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It would force her to defend her own actions. I signed the papers with a steady hand. War had been declared, and I was ready. I arrived early for a meeting with Etta at a cafe. She appeared in her business suit, armored for battle, looking tired and thinner. I asked her why she didn't come to me directly with her concerns. She replied that I was always too busy with the company. "I built this for you," I said. "No, Dad, you built it for yourself. I was just an addition," she countered. We dissected 35 years of accumulated hurt. She showed me projections that painted Hanson Tech as a dinosaur. She was proposing automation that would destroy lives and families. "Business isn't about loyalty, Dad. It's about results." "When did you become so cold?" I asked. "When I realized sentiment doesn't pay dividends." She then said I had taught her that by choosing the company over our family. I felt something break inside my chest. It wasn't anger, but understanding. She stood up to leave, looking at me with my late wife's eyes in a stranger's face. "I'm not the little girl waiting by the window anymore. I don't need your approval, Dot, and I don't need your company." "But you want it," I said. "I want to save it from you." She gave me a final message to pass on to Sophie and disappeared into the crowd. I was left alone with the understanding that my daughter was not just taking my company. She was taking revenge for 35 years of perceived neglect. And a part of me knew she was right. The next day, at the courthouse, Etta's legal team, led by Lavra Blake, arranged themselves like predators. Ada, looking professional and composed, avoided my gaze. I felt a mix of anxiety and resolve as Michael squeezed my arm and reminded me to stay calm. The judge began the proceedings, and Blake launched her attack, portraying me as an aging executive whose judgment had been compromised by grief. She presented 6 months of carefully curated evidence to argue that I should be declared incompetent. Etta took the stand, sworn to destroy me. Her voice was steady as she testified that my decisions were guided by emotion, not business logic. She cited the charity partnership with her mother's foundation as an example of my emotional weakness, and my resistance to automation as a sign of my outdated thinking. She claimed that Hansen Tech was stagnating and needed fresh leadership. Her words were a mix of lies and half-truths, but they hit like physical blows. Michael's cross-examination was surgical. He highlighted our increasing profits and high employee retention rates, suggesting that they were signs of exceptional leadership, not incompetence. The damage was done. When James Corbin, a key shareholder, testified, he echoed Eda's sentiment, stating that the company needed a leader who prioritized shareholder value. I left the court feeling drained, but ready to fight back. Back at my office, my assistants Sarah and Steve Wilson had new, damaging information. Etta had been making secret promises of salary increases and stock options to key employees, and the math simply didn't add up. She was committing fraud. Steve had also discovered that her lawyer, Laura Blake, had a history of suborning perjury. Michael called with even more damning evidence. Etta had made 3 unauthorized transfers totaling $847,000 from corporate accounts to fund her legal campaign. My daughter had tried to prove my incompetence by demonstrating her own criminal stupidity. We decided to go on the offensive, filing a countersuit for embezzlement, conspiracy, and emotional distress. I felt a cold determination as I signed the papers. Etta had declared war, and now she would learn the rules. The next hearing was filled with tension. Michael presented our evidence of Eda's unauthorized financial operations and the witness tampering by her lawyer, Laura Blake. Etta's face went pale as Michael projected the bank statements, proving the embezzlement. He then revealed that we had recordings of Blake coaching Etta's testimony. The judge's expression darkened, and he demanded to review the recordings immediately. When it was my turn to testify, I felt calm and confident. I presented my medical evaluations, proving my mental acuity, and defended my management philosophy. I explained that I prioritize sustainable growth, employee satisfaction, and customer loyalty over short-term profits. My daughter, I said, confused passion with instability and conviction with stubbornness. Blake's cross-examination was desperate and ineffective. The evidence was overwhelming, and even James Corbin began to reconsider his position. The judge dismissed the case, and I retained full control of the company. Victory felt hollow. The company was safe, but my relationship with my daughter was in ruins. She approached me, defeated, and said she never meant for it to go this far. I told her that it had, and that victory felt hollow. Yet, I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes when I told her that this didn't have to be the end of our story. I told her she was still brilliant and capable of great things, and that it took courage to challenge me, even if the method was wrong. We agreed to talk privately, and she promised to call me next week. I left the courthouse feeling not vindicated, but hopeful. 10 days later, we met at a bench overlooking Lake Union. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no business armor, just my daughter. She told me she never felt I was proud of her, and that my achievements made hers feel invisible. I admitted that I was always proud of her, but I just didn't know how to show it, and that I had confused providing with parenting. She said she needed a father, not a benefactor, and that I had taught her that success mattered more than people. I accepted her words, feeling a profound understanding. She confessed that she filed the lawsuit not just for the company, but for my recognition and validation. I told her she had forced us to confront what was broken. I proposed shared leadership, co-CEOs, with her innovation and my experience. She was shocked but agreed, with a few conditions of her own: full transparency, gradual changes, and family time protected. I agreed to her conditions, and she agreed to mine. We shook hands, sealing the deal. Then she hugged me tightly and said, "I love you, Dad." A few weeks later, we celebrated at her house. The house smelled like my late wife Allah's favorite recipe, and the table was set formally but warmly. I gave my granddaughter Sophie a miniature business suit for when she's ready to run the company. We signed the partnership agreement, a testament to our new shared leadership, and toasted with champagne to the new future of Hanson Tech and our family. I felt Elna's presence in the room, in Edda's smile, and Sophie's laughter. My family was united again, stronger and more honest than before. We were a team, and as I drove home, I knew that all the pain and fighting had led us to this moment, to a partnership, to a family, to the future my late wife had always envisioned.